Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Hurdle the Line. This is your second week preview of the NFL season. Really, really excited to get going. And in order to preview a big 16 game billing of week two action and my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts we have back for the season, Karl. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, mate. A little bit under the weather this week, but it is what it is. Not very pleased with how my team performed last weekend, but hopefully we could do a little bit better. Hope everyone's all good, and yeah, let's crack on with it.
Yeah, it's one of them. I know having children and that, we go back to school, they're basically petri dishes. And bring home.
Yeah.
As a father myself, I completely understand that predicament. Also joining us this week is Ballers Meg, as usual. How are you, Ballers Meg?
I am very well, thank you. Don't have any kids, but do work in a school, so also can relate to the whole petri dish of germs. How are you, Lions guy Fletch?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm even better knowing that joining me also on this fine Thursday evening is the man I see more than my own wife, even though all of it is virtual. We have Sam with us. How are you, Sam?
I'm good. I'm just a bit tired. I'm now on holiday for the next, 12 days. So just trying to spend my evening packing and getting stuff sorted, ready to go.
Lovely. We excited for the trip away.
Yeah, not particularly the drive down, but the trip will be good once I'm actually down there.
Yeah. Always the case. Always the case. Right. Got a couple of little bits of news before we drop into. We're gonna have a little chat about Monday Night Football. Is obviously just after that game was when the preview team ran just before that game. So we'll have a little bit of a chat about that. But first, the only couple of bits that I have are that the other day, Tank Bigsby was traded from the Jags to the Steelers, not the Steelers, the Eagles. In return, the Jags get a fifth and sixth 2026 draft pick. Jeez, man, how can we'll get better as the episode goes on. Um, Mostly special teams that we're hearing. What are we thinking of the trade?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we I certainly thought Tank Bigsby was going to do well for Jacksonville this season. So interesting decision to trade him off, especially to an Eagles side that arguably don't really need any more depth in that position. But like you said, all reports are pointing to the fact that he's going to be used in the special teams more than in any other position. So interesting. I'm not sure that the Jacksonville Jaguars won that trade, to be honest, but that's just my opinion. I think that they could have used him probably this season better than he's going to do on special teams. But yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, it was an odd decision, I thought, um for Jacksonville to trade away because the only thing that makes sense is obviously they brought in Cody Schrader from our practice squad, and he had an absolutely fantastic off season. So the only thing I can think is that they saw something in him that maybe they didn't. They got the offer from Tank, and they just thought, well, we can use the picks next year for other players, build up that defense even more than we need, more than we can, and we'll take Cody Schrader as our backup. Because he showed that he's a powerful runner. He can, work the downs when he's needed. My only concern would be is if Travis gets injured, they're screwed at running back because as good as Schrader was in preseason, it's preseason. There's no
yeah,
guarantee that will then translate to the normal season. So yeah, it's an odd decision, but I kind of understand it in terms of the Eagles wanted him, so they looked elsewhere and found someone they thought was a reasonable trade off for what they got.
yeah. Um, One fun fact about it as well, though, is the Jacksonville Jaguars have, I think it's 13 draft picks next year across day two and day three, but none on day one because of their trade up to go get Travis Hunter. Um, could they do well, in the words of Jerry Jones, a They could trade it up to get more talent, or they don't. I don't know. Could they trade it into a first round? Some of those picks into a first round pick in next year's draft remains to be seen. But the Steelers have signed former New England Patriots safety and Cleveland Browns safety Jabril Peppers. Karl, I know was there a little bit of not confusion per se, but I know that mixed reviews on letting Jabril Peppers go from the Patriots in the first place.
Yeah, that was a weird decision that the Patriots organization did there to get to let Jabril Peppers go. Um, Considering that we were left with two rookies in Jalen Hawkins and Woodson as well, the rookie safeties were relying on rookies. It just didn't make any sense. You wanted to keep hold of the leadership, and we know that Carl Duggar has now dropped down and is now backup. But Jabril Peppers, he's a nightmare. You know what you're gonna get with Jabril Peppers. You're gonna get a lot of energy. You're gonna get a lot of fight. You're gonna get a lot of tenacity. You're gonna get a lot of everything with Jabril Peppers. And the fact he's gone, not just gone to any team, he's gone to the Steelers. And we know the Steelers defense. They play hard nosed. They play real rough defensive football. That suits Jabril Peppers down to the ground. But even myself and the other lads on the Patriots touchback, which you can find us on Tuesday nights, you know, we're still scratching our heads, thinking, why have we done this? Now our safety, because now what looked like our secondary was one of our strongest positions, is now turning into one of our weakest when it comes to the safety positions, and that's not taking Christian Gonzalez, who's still out injured. So it was just the timing was just very odd, to say the least.
Yeah. Um. Also, well, yeah, I think most people would agree with you there. I know him from his days at Michigan as well. And we know exactly what you're getting out of Jabril Peppers. The only other bit as well has been the 49ers have placed the entire franchise onto IR. The whole place is injured. So we believe that Gary is stepping up as a corner next week and
Yeah.
everything. They're that short on players. No, Brock Purdy is set now to miss 3 to 5 weeks with turf toe. George Kittle is set to miss 3 to 5 weeks with the injury that he has sustained. Um, it's bad, bad place to be for 49ers fans.
But,
Um,
but they have a salvation. They have a salvation at quarterback. It goes by the
who's
name
the
of Mac Jones.
Macaroni cheese
Macaroni and cheese. He's exactly that.
Oh dear. Poor 49ers.
from
yeah.
cock from was it Brock the cock to Mac the
I'm not
I
gonna
don't
go
want to
there.
go
Let's
there.
not go
Don't
down
want to
this
go
road.
there. Um,
whack the Mac.
Big Croc Brock is what you were meant to try and say. Was that it?
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go then.
like we can't go
it's
much
fine.
further.
I call him Brock the cock because he is.
Um, and finally, right, this relates to the weekend. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you this is a genuine piece of news. Meme of the year has dropped, right? The meme of the year has dropped. If you are on YouTube, I would start paying attention to the screen right now. Last week, as we are all aware, ads made their way into Red Zone. Now they were on dual screen. They did not show up during the witching hour. And FanDuel decided to tell us that the accumulative time of ads on screen amounted to 1 minute, but it resulted in this graphic being posted by FanDuel, which shows for those on audio only just a picture of Scott Hansen and the quote lasted 1 minute.
Oh
But
dear.
And
you know what's really bizarre about those ads? I didn't see a single ad whilst watching Red Zone on Sky. Not a single ad came through. All it did was it just blanked the screen for like 25 seconds.
I don't think we can legally show the ads on terrestrial TV here, can we?
No, unless you want to get done for copyright.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't want to watch the actual ads, then just watch. If you have Sky, watch Red Zone through Sky, and
That's what I
you don't
did.
get any ads.
Yeah, that's what I did. I watched it through Now TV. I'm not like sod paying for the Zone at the moment, and no, so yeah, I watched it on Sky Sports Mix, and
Yeah.
yeah, no ads whatsoever. So yeah,
Yeah, I
You know
just
what's also? I was going to say just another bit of news because it's again because we enjoy laughing at the Cowboys. Um, Deron Bland could miss multiple weeks due to a foot injury. So not only did they trade away Micah Parsons for whatever they traded for, they paid Deron Bland uh, a sizable amount of money, and now he's not going to play for multiple weeks.
perfect time to call off sick.
Yeah.
um yeah, I know that memes or graphics are not normally I just that's the funniest thing I've seen. FanDuel have done Scott Hansen so dirty.
So
They've
dark.
done him so dirty that I couldn't not share it. Anyway, um, before we get into the main action, we have to do the whole everybody, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching on YouTube, then I would look down beyond below Sam and Meg, although I'm pretty sure it's all rearranged the screen for everybody now. In the description of this episode, you will find a number of blue links. In those blue links, you will find the links to follow the AAW network, which is the network that runs this podcast. You will find the links to follow Hurdle the Line on social media. Follow these wonderful human beings in the boxes on your screen. You can join our Discord, our free to join Discord, which has multiple football channels, multiple other channels that you can get in and join. And I want to ask you the question, right? With the week just gone, the week coming up, I know Meg and I and Mrs. Fletch had our Sunday viewing enhanced by being an NFL event in Manchester.
We did.
But
We,
to enhance your Sundays, I'm just wondering, do any of you like to play fantasy football?
all the time.
Enhance your daily experience, right?
Yes.
What about having a little tipple on the action? Couple of quid
Having a drink.
down.
Having a
Uh,
drink.
It tends to get used in anyway. Having a little flutter. Okay, then a little flutter on the action. Couple of quid down enhances your experience during the day, doesn't it? I like to find. Yeah, we all agree. But
Yep.
what if you could do both of those things at the same time? Well, I've been racking my brain over this for generations, and it turns out that you can. DraftKings did it, but even better when they left. We didn't want them anyway because we have now got Fantasy Game Day, the first and only NFL daily fantasy app made by UK fans for UK fans. You compete, set your lineup to your budget, compete against other NFL fans in the United Kingdom, and potentially win yourself a little bit of money playing, but doing both a bit of a bet and playing fantasy football at the same time. Now, how you can do this is to go down into the description of this episode, find the link for Fantasy Game Day, download their app, and sign up. When you sign up, use the promo code HRDLE, that is HRDLE, that is hurdle without the U.
Well, there's no hurdle the line without you.
Exactly. Just beautiful. That's HRDLE, and you will get a free play worth up to £7.50. And I believe you might even be able to split it worth £7.50 once you deposit and play for the first time. Because when you tell them that we've sent you, they're like, do you know what? We like those guys. For listening to those guys and doing what they say, we'll give you a little bit of something extra because they're just that generous over there. And you'd think that's the first time me and Sam have ever done. That's not even rehearsed or nothing. That's beautiful. Off the dome. Anyway, right. So the lads on Monday, they did the review show beforehand, before Monday Night Football. Didn't really get a chance to see it. Turned out to be an absolute belter to an
Uh,
extent.
just a quick one, Fletch. Sorry, I didn't realize you managed to pick up Andy Goldstein to be the host on Monday because Ollie sounded like Andy Goldstein of TalkSport. Oh, I was listening to it in the car on the way in. I was like, "Hang on, is this Ollie? Or is this Andy Goldstein? Who is this?"
God, fair play. Yeah, fair play. But yeah, Monday night, Chicago Bears took on the Minnesota Vikings in, yeah, what turned out to be a very, very, very good game towards the end. The Bears were three scores up in the fourth quarter until JJ McCarthy, my sweet, sweet Michigan Prince, led the Vikings to a 21-point fourth quarter. Did any of you get much of this game in? I know some of us watched the game live. I'm going
We
to gather
did.
you two didn't.
No, I'd driven all the way back from Gloucester. So I went, no, I was driving to Gloucester. So I went to bed very early.
No worries.
I caught a rerun of the game the following day. Um, Two sides of a story here of both quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, first drive was pretty decent. Rest of the game was average, and in the fourth quarter he went completely AWOL. JJ McCarthy for three quarters played really poor. Played like was nervous, didn't look great. And then in the fourth quarter he turned into prime Peyton Manning and brought the Vikings back. I mean, it's two sides of this game. What I don't like is the fact that Caleb Williams, we know how much of a talent he is at quarterback. We all know that. But it's all right doing the rolling out to the right of the pocket and then throwing it sidearm, shooting about 100 miles an hour to your receiver. It's a 10 out of 10 throw in degree of difficulty. But when you can't even do the basic, i.e., like a layup to the running back or layup to the slap receiver, that's concerning. That is really concerning. And we saw this last year in Caleb Williams' rookie year. Now I know Ben Johnson is his first game as head coach, so we'll try and give him a bit of the pass on this. But whenever a team has a double digit lead and then they blow it in the fourth quarter, it's never a good sign. It's never
Yeah.
ever a good sign.
No.
So if I am on both sides of the both side, if I'm on either side of the fan base here, I'm looking at as a Vikings fan. I goes, okay, JJ didn't play particularly great, but guess what? He led us to victory. I'll be more confident with JJ McCarthy than I say when I'll be a Bears fan thinking, yeah, he was good for that first drive, but then what the hell happened in the second half? But the Bears fans know about mediocre or shitty quarterback play. Even when they had McMahon at quarterback when they won the Super Bowl, come on, he weren't exactly great.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
think it
that's
was like you say, it was an interesting game to watch. I did stay up and watch all of it. And at first I thought Caleb Williams looked pretty decent. Like you said, I thought, geez, we've got suddenly Caleb Williams showing up, showing out, doing what he needs to do. And then, like you said, JJ McCarthy I was worried because I've been on the JJ hype train for a while now. I was a bit worried that we weren't going to see that JJ that we're all expecting to see. And we didn't for the first three quarters of the game, like you said. And then fourth quarter, whatever happened in that kind of small intermission between third and fourth, geez, he came out absolutely ready to ball. And it was great to see it. Obviously, not if you're a Bears fan, but equally, we spoke last week about Ben Johnson and his coaching abilities, etc. We can't even blame that, let's be honest, entirely. Caleb just didn't show up for the second part of that game. Um, yeah, like you said, I've got faith that JJ's got more in the tank than what we saw in the first three quarters, and he kind of came back to prove himself in that final. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that first half, the Vikings go three and out, 7 plays field goal, three and out, 2 plays field goal. Then in the third quarter, even then, you go three and out that ends with an interception, a shocking interception at that.
Yep.
Three and out, three and out. It either ended in a field goal, an interception, or a three and out, and that's over what's that 9? That's the first 9 drives of the game. Then in the fourth quarter, touchdown, 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 punt.
Yeah.
6 plays, 3 plays, 9 plays, 3 plays. Like that's just turning on the Jets. And the thing that gets me is like, did anyone hear what he said to the Vikings in the huddle in the third quarter?
Yeah. I can't remember word for word, but I did send you the
Yeah.
transcript of it, didn't I?
Yeah, he gets everyone in the huddle and they're down by what, 3 scores, and he goes, "Where else would you rather be?" It was right after. Apparently, there's debate over which huddle he actually said it in, but I think it was out meant to be after he threw the interception. Things were really not going there. Where you get someone in the huddle and says, "Where else would you rather be?" And Justin Jefferson, he turned around in the game afterward, oh well, in the locker room afterwards, and he was like, "When your quarterback comes out and has that kind of mentality, you pick yourself up." Getting out that huddle, it was really, really nice to see. I like seeing Caleb Williams, but not to be the Lions fan bagging on Ben Johnson, as I know I'm going to be hard on him this year. Those first 10 plays, your scripted plays, fair enough, they look like they did what they did, and Caleb Williams looked a bit skittish, but quick. When he was noticing pressure well, he was getting out of it, he was moving well, and he was getting the ball out. It looked really, really good. But outside of that, it just looked like Caleb Williams was having to do a lot of things on the fly. Reminded me of when he was um, in that final year at USC, when a lot of the things he was having to do because he had no O-line protecting him, and he was just making things.
Launching it. He was just launching it, weren't he, at
Yeah.
USC? But
So
the problem is though, and we're seeing this with a trait. This isn't just Caleb Williams. We're seeing this as a trait with a lot of quarterbacks that are coming, but rookie quarterbacks or first, second year quarterbacks. You take away their first read, they become the happy feet in the pocket. They cannot adjust to their second, their third, or to take off. They have got no fight or flight response at the moment. And that's
yeah,
where
But
Caleb is right now. That first read, he's
isn't
so depending on.
but this is the thing which it harps back to what um, Tom Brady was talking about when he was
yeah,
talking about the fact that rookie QBs should not be playing in their first season unless they are essentially the best in the world. Like we saw how Joe Burrow did in his first season, stuff like that, because you're not giving them enough time to adjust to how the NFL is completely different to college football in terms of the time that you need or the time that you get in the pocket, the different reads. I mean, we've heard the likes of Brady and McVay talk about the types of plays that they have in the NFL, and there's like 20 different things that a quarterback has to remember and then use in the middle of the game and then make decisions on top of that. And I think not allowing, throwing rookie quarterbacks in at that stage isn't a good idea, in my opinion. And I sort of understand it. I just think that if to me, it feels like with Caleb, we're getting Trevor Lawrence 2.0, someone who was seen as being the number one pick out of the draft, meant to be this generational QB, goes into an organization that was a bit messy, and within 2 seasons, he's already on his second coach. It just feels very much like Trevor Lawrence 2.0. The only difference is I think Caleb has a better second coach in Ben Johnson than what Trevor Lawrence got in
yeah,
Doug Peterson. My fear is that people need to, again, it's that whole idea of you need to have a response straight away. Caleb needs to be hitting the ground running, otherwise he's a dud. And that's not true because, you know, we've already seen that this is what Trevor Lawrence's 5th season, and I already think he looks better than what he did in those other 4 seasons.
Agreed.
So, you just need to give him a bit of time. The Bears aren't going to be amazing at this point, but they have so
yeah,
much positivity in terms of one of the best young coaches in the game, a solid wide receiver core well, 2 of them are very young, and one of them is still relatively young. They're building an O-line which have still got to work together and play together. And the Bears are just known for their defense. So that defense is always going to be strong. So, I think it needs time, and people need to be a bit patient. I think Bears fans need to be patient. I get it because they're so used to having trash quarterbacks that they don't want Caleb to be another one. But just give it a bit of time, and eventually it should then gel together.
Yeah.
because we've seen Caleb has moments where he can be brilliant. We've seen it. It's just he needs that confidence and that ability to just learn and play and get himself into games and not learn from the mistakes that he makes. Knowing that he can't go into another fourth quarter and basically just forget how to play football. He needs to push that to one side and think, right, I've done it for 3 quarters, or I've done it for 2 quarters, let's go again, and just treat it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
One more fun fact coming out of that game is since losing to TCU in the 2022 college football playoff semi-finals, JJ McCarthy is now 16-0 as a starting quarterback in competitive games. 16-0. And as part of that 60, sorry, what were you going to say, Sam?
I was just going to say, talking of quarterback stats, something that I saw the other day, which I thought was really, really interesting, was, and this is why I mentioned it's about Jared Goff. Apparently, if you take Sean McVay and Dan Campbell out of his coaches that have coached him, he's 0-19-1 as a quarterback.
It was Ben Johnson and was it not Ben Johnson as well?
Well, no, because he's never had Ben Johnson as a head coach.
The one I saw was like if you take
Maybe
Ben Johnson
it was
and
Ben
Sean
Johnson
McVay out of the equation, is 3-19-1.
I saw 0-19-1.
Right.
But either way, I just thought it was a really interesting stat that, of how quarterbacks play under different coaches. And yeah, just thought it was interesting and thought I'd bring it up because being a Lions fan.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you liked. I'm sure you love dropping that stat in there. Speaking though of that 16-0 JJ McCarthy run, this does, by the way, lead us on to week 2 of the NFL season. Speaking of that, the last professional game he played that sent him to 15-0 just so happened to be in 2020. Well, actually, it turned out to be 2024 by the time the game was played, when the Michigan Wolverines faced off against the Washington Huskies in the college football playoff national championship, a game in which I think I'm just trying to remember. Oh yeah, Michigan won that one quite convincingly. Fast forward a couple of months. Now, in his second start in the NFL, he's going to go and face up against the quarterback he faced in that very matchup in Michael Penix. See, Karl was like, I don't know where he's going with this, and now you figured out where I'm going with this.
I knew where you were going with it. I knew you were sending for me.
Sending for you, but I've just reminded you like 4 times this week that was the last time these people faced each other,
including twice today.
Yeah. There is the rematch of those quarterbacks, and also this weekend, if you don't remember, there was a game in February, the Super Bowl, I believe, where the Philadelphia Eagles went up against and we also have that rematch on the billing for this weekend. A really, really exciting billing of NFL action. And Meg, I do believe, should we get us started with your game of the week?
We can do. So my game of the week is that Super Bowl rematch, the Eagles-Chiefs game. I'm so interested. Obviously, it's at Arrowhead, which does play a factor in potential outcome. It's interesting that they have played each other historically since 1972 12 times, and they are dead tied on 6-6. I'm interested to see how it plays out because obviously for the Chiefs, it's a revenge game. This is, they want to right the wrongs of the Super Bowl. They want to show what they can do against those Eagles. However, having seen the Chiefs playing last week, and having seen the kind of status of their play, I would argue that the Philadelphia Eagles have got a slight advantage going into this game. I think that as I said at the start of this little section. We can't ignore the fact it's at Arrowhead. We just can't. But we also have to take into account that obviously Xavier Worthy's out for the next 3 to 5 weeks. We have to take into account that Pat Mahomes did not look like the Pat Mahomes we are used to seeing on week one's Thursday night football game. We need to look at the fact that Eagles defense is pretty damn solid going into the game, that they are still pretty much intact after their week one victory. And I think that I would not be surprised if it's, a closely fought out battle of wills against the Titans that are Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes, but I don't think Pat Mahomes has got enough in the tank to get over the line with it. I think it'll be close. I don't think by any means it's going to be a blowout on either side, but yeah, that's where I'm at with my game of the week this week.
I think the worrying thing for the Chiefs, especially when you watch them in that first week, is how susceptible they were to the throw. Which is,
Yes,
it didn't seem, for a Spagnuolo defense, it didn't seem right. There was something just off. Like even the likes of Trent McDuffie was just not playing well. Now I don't know if that was because of the travel or was because of the fact that they were, the field they were playing on, they couldn't get the right, you know, pull, I don't know, the right sort of traction on the ground or whatever. But that defense, like that secondary, just looked awful.
it did.
And the worry that I have is that, as good as Herbert and McConkey and Keenan Allen are, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae
Big
Smith,
one.
Saquon in the air as well, is a lot more of a dangerous threat than what credit where the Chargers are. They are better than the Chargers on that wide receiver core and in terms of the running back. And I just think that obviously Spags will have something. He'll pull something out of his ass, as he always does. But I just think that, if they're going to play defensively the way that they did, they can stop the run, and they did that all right against the Chargers. But if they are as bad as they were in terms of those sort of middle yards, it's like 10, 15-yard throws, then that's where I would be getting concerned, because AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, not only are they great at making the catches, their yards after the catch are also very, very good. And that's what would be my concern.
100%.
And also, they
100%.
don't have the same on the other side. Like, obviously, Mahomes has lost Worthy. He doesn't have Rice for this game. He seems to have a good relationship with Hollywood Brown, but, his relationship with Travis Kelce seems to have disapparated completely and just decided to, apart from that one throw that he had where he got a touchdown, I mean, and it doesn't seem, there's things that are off at the moment.
Yeah,
Now, that could just be because it was week one, like we said, with all the things with Brazil, but I don't know. I just think it's,
something was missing for sure.
yeah,
There
on
wasn't
both
that.
sides of the ball.
Yeah, there just wasn't that Chiefs kind of, and I hate to use it because it seems cheesy, but there wasn't that Chiefs magic that we're used to seeing the last few seasons
Mm-hmm.
so far. Obviously,
Which,
week
which,
one and Brazil taken
It's
into
which,
account.
which ultimately means that they're probably going to go and beat the Eagles.
Yeah, watch this. Watch them
it's
go ball out this week.
Yeah.
they're slowly becoming an aging roster, and I think they haven't. There's so many times you could continue to go back to the Super Bowl with the same team and run it back. Eventually, age will start catching up to the team, and I think that's what they're starting to catch up with now. And now they're putting the ball in Mahomes' hands and relying on him now to get them out of this. One thing that was very, very apparent last week in Brazil, the Chiefs had a literally next to no running game. Hunt and
Mm.
Pacheco combined for 2 runs of 20 plus yards at last week. Pacheco's lone run of 20 yards was 34. Hunt was 20 yards. They're not game breakers. And they need to establish a run against this Eagles team. Because there's one thing, what was the issue with, well, there was two issues what happened at the Super Bowl. A, they couldn't establish a running game against the Eagles. And secondly, that offensive line, which, where is it? Have I got this up here? Here we go. This offensive line, which consists of Joe Tooney, Mike Calendo, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Jawan Taylor. got absolutely turned into splintered wood by that front seven. Now, credit, okay, the Eagles' front seven is not as potent as what it was in the Super Bowl because they've lost pieces. But this line of the Chiefs is now goes as the three from centre to right tackle is still the same, but on the left, which is the blind side, you got Kingsley Summantire, who was a second year offensive lineman, and then you got Josh Simmons, who's a rookie out of Ohio State. So and remember Simmons is coming off a torn patella tendon injury. So that line is going to be tested really, really badly in this game against the Eagles, and they can't afford. It's the Super Bowl. Okay, you could nurse your wounds and then you get back to training and so on. But this is week two. You don't want this Eagles front seven literally turning your offensive line into Swiss cheese. You really don't. Um, and this is where you're going to end up seeing. I think you're going to see a lot more of Kareem Hunt in this game than what you think of Pacheco. Because I think this is a game now where they're going to have to do a lot of screenplay for the running back. They've got to try and get a running game going. And as you said, Xavier Worthy looks like he's going to be out. And obviously, we know Rashee Rice is suspended. They can't rely on Travis Kelce because he's aging too much. So who have you got? Hollywood
Hollywood
Brown?
Brown.
Hollywood
Hollywood
Brown.
Brown.
That's all you're relying on.
You've got
That's
Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and
Juju, yeah.
Tyquan Thornton are your three wide receivers now,
Well,
with Brownlee as another one, Jason Brownlee.
Mm.
well, here's the
I
thing,
mean,
though. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it just seems bizarre that we seem to have the exact same issue with the Chiefs wide receiver core. It always just looks bad, and I don't.
Yeah.
They need to make sure that they can keep. Once Rice and Worthy are back, they've got to make sure that they're fit and keep them fit throughout the whole season, because you can't keep relying on the likes of Thornton and Brownlee to get you through into Super Bowls. It's not going to happen another season because teams will work it out.
Yeah.
Oh, and to add on top of that as well, not on the running game, on the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, they cannot solely rely on defensive tackle Chris Jones to keep getting sacks and put pressure in the quarterback. Everybody
Yeah.
else has got to do so much more in this game. If you're going to get all of Jalen Hurts, if you're going to end up stopping Saquon Barkley, this front seven, I think it was Tranquil, and I think it was Nick Bolton, I think it was. Um, they got Karafkes as
I'll
well.
have this. I'll have this.
Carl
Karl
Aftis,
Aftis, yeah.
sorry, that's a botching name. My apologies. Um,
He listens to this podcast as well. He's going to be fuming.
yeah, so they're going to need help. But on the Eagles side of things, they need to get AJ Brown in early.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he had a disaster. He barely got touched. I
But he
think he
had
had, what if he had like one or
two
two
targets,
catches,
was it something?
two
Yeah.
targets, one catch. Anybody who took AJ Brown as a first round pick in fantasy, I'm my sincere condolences.
Got
But
8 yards as well.
yeah, there we go. But they've got to get AJ Brown in early. They've got to get Devontae Smith in early as well.
Yep,
Mm.
agree.
That's it. I've got AJ Brown in 2 leagues. In one of those leagues, I was is one of the AAW leagues. I was facing against someone who just so happens to be. I actually faced against 2 of yous this week, by the way. But in particular, Barless Meg. That same, I believe it's the same team. I have AJ Brown, but also in that team was Xavier Worthy. That's the only reason I lost. Otherwise, I would have kicked your ass. You got so
Okay.
lucky, so
Okay.
lucky.
Fine,
Okay.
it's fine margin gaze. It's fine margins. Fine margins gaze.
Um, It's a game of inches, as the Paddy Power underwear says.
I think
The
one of the things as well with this game that they need to work on, in particular, which I think again, you saw Kelsey's reaction on the field when this happened, but Juwan Taylor needs to sort out those penalties, because he had 4 for 30 yards, and he needs to fix that, because with that D line coming up against him this week, he needs to sort that out. And there was him. I mean, Simmons, you can grace his. He had 2 in that game, but he was a rookie, so you can't expect, and coming off that injury, so you can't expect he's going to make mistakes. But Juwan Taylor has been there Um, you know, he's been in the season, he's been in the league long enough. He should know better, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Um,
So
yeah.
yeah,
A couple of things I wanted to mention as well, though, on top of this was one we spoke about Hollywood Brown. Out of the 38 passing attempts that Patrick Mahomes had throughout the game, Hollywood Brown saw 16 of those targets. For an offense like the Chiefs, you need to spread those targets out. You can't, like, it's so easy to then clamp down on the one man that you are targeting, and if you only trust what, it's so easy to get round you. The other thing, as you've just mentioned there, Sam, is you gotta clean up those penalties where they lose it. Is in one red, like just getting into the red zone. The Chargers got there more, but also 10 penalties for 71 yards. The Chargers had 6 penalties for 49 yards. Like, you just can't be doing those things, and you've got to clean them up. But I want to talk about the Eagles for 1 second. We can't just spend the whole time talking about the Chiefs. As much as that'll probably bring us in all the money and all the fans, that's what we can't be doing. Um, the thing, like, Jalen Hurts is really, 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 really impressing me at the moment, and I don't like it. I've never been a massive fan of Jalen, but he's really, really impressive. The performance he put up in the Super Bowl was fantastic, and I didn't know if they just schemed him really well. I don't know if else was just, but the fantastic performance, and even I thought what the Cowboys did last week was they schemed for Jalen to really clamp down on taking what Jalen Hurts got, taking beyond the sticks away from Jalen Hurts. AJ Brown, like you say, one catch for 8 yards. When else does AJ Brown get that? It never happens. The Cowboys took them out, and the way they disguise the coverages in those, like, yes, it drops into a zone coverage, but the second a man runs into your zone, it's man coverage and it's on. So you take so many of those different options because Jalen Hurts doesn't know whether you're in man coverage or in zone coverage, and then everyone's covered. And they said, "Go on then, Jalen, beat us with your. Let's see if you can beat us on your legs." And then Jalen Hurts went, "Okay, okay, I'll beat you with my legs then." And Jalen Hurts then beat him with his legs. He was fantastic all game, but just the way the Cowboys covered, Jalen Hurts did everything he had to do, made good decisions, released the ball at the right time to the right place, and made the correct decisions when scrambling. I think we're getting that. We are now at the point where we're getting the very best out of Jalen Hurts, and it scares me to think that now the Eagles really could be they're the team right now.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what Sam was saying earlier about quarterbacks and being able to make the decisions on the fly, where it's all fine and well having those plays rehearsed out and saying, right, this is the route we're going to run, this is the play we're going to make. But actually with Jalen Hurts, what we see is that natural instinct of, oh, okay, that's not going to work. Here's my second option. Right, okay, that's not going to work. Here's my third option. I'm going to run. Like, he has got the skill that we're not seeing in those rookie quarterbacks because they're not necessarily instinctive players yet and intuitive players yet because they've not had the same NFL experience. Obviously, we know there's a massive jump up from college. We know it's different. And with Jalen Hurts having that experience, you really see it in the way that he plays ball. When he shows up, he knows what to do in all the situations and all the scenarios that he's going to come against, and that's where that world class play comes into it because you're seeing that, like I said, that instinctive on the ball in the moment. Right, okay, adapt, adapt, adapt. And that adaptive play is what we talk about all the time as being one of the key points to success here. Um, and I genuinely, one of the things that I love first and foremost above my team is watching football and watching good football. And
Yeah,
you're never disappointed with that with Jalen Hurts.
no,
I think if you remember Jalen Hurts from his early years as well, like when he was first starting out, there was a lot of question marks because he made a lot of dumb decisions. And now he's doing the exact opposite. He's making all the right decisions. And it just shows you what giving someone the ability to just learn and build their knowledge and build their career in the NFL does. And I think sometimes we I mean, yes, okay, they've had probably the best team around him that you possibly can have, but at the same time, he was still given the opportunity. They could have easily just thought after was it the 2021 season where he did not play well in his very first. I mean, I know he had his first year and then his full year, and he didn't play very well, and everyone could have just gone right. Well, we'll move on to someone else, and they gave him the opportunity, and he slowly built his career, and he got the last 3 full seasons he's had 22 touchdowns, 23 touchdowns, and 18 touchdowns passing, and then obviously God knows how many touchdowns he's had running in that to 13, 15, and 14 in that period. So you can see that massive step up that he's had and the consistency that he's now got in his game. And I think that if you're a young quarterback, he's the sort of guy you need to be looking at in terms of learning the game and just building it and not taking too much pressure off or taking too much pressure on in terms of how your game is or isn't developing. I think probably um, one of the guys that they'll have talked about on the review, but Michael Penix Jr. in their opening game, some of the plays he made were unreal. I mean that touchdown that he got and the one for was it the 4th and 1 that he got as well, just unbelievable plays where you just think he's the sort of player that he looks like he could be in a couple of years' time, that Jalen Hurts figure, because he just looks like he already looks like he has the knowledge to know when to go and when not to go and the decisions to make and when not to. Obviously, he's still going to make mistakes. It's his first year, but his first full season as starting quarterback. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's.
And I think we're seeing that, like they've both sat behind, or sorry, Michael Penix has sat behind experienced quarterbacks, but if we can call Kirk Cousins that, but we also see Tanner McKee coming through at the Eagles during preseason, and we saw that transfer of skills that, for a preseason game on a backup QB, you watch what he can do already. And that's sitting behind Jalen Hurts, learning the game, getting the experience. Give it a couple of years when Jalen Hurts is ready to retire and whatever. You've got that experience sitting there. And also, if anything was to happen, you can quite confidently say for the Eagles anyway, they can bring on that backup QB. And yeah, it might not be Jalen Hurts level, but it's damn near as good as it's going to get for a backup quarterback. And that experience really, really shows.
Yeah. Obviously this is the game of the week. It's the Super Bowl rematch. Um, what a kind of where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? I had bloody page up then. Um,
We love the Michael Penix Jr. Love over here, though. Just it's filling me with hope.
I've not really watched too much of him in terms of like when he was in college and that, but I watched those couple of drives where he was the one that had to make those plays, and they were fantastic plays off the cuff, and that dive for the touchdown was just insanely good.
Yeah, that still shot, the still shot that they got where he's caught the ball and he's literally not caught it, where he's about to dive over the line, and you see it and you think, wow, and absolutely incredible.
okay. So, little fact about this Sunday's matchup. It'll be the 10th time, no, 11th time in NFL history that there has been a rematch of the previous Super Bowl within the season after that Super Bowl. 7 out of the 10, the Super Bowl winning team won the rematch the next year, which means obviously 3 times out of 10, whoever lost the Super Bowl won the rematch. The last time the Super Bowl losing team won the rematch of the Super Bowl the season later was when the Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and then the Eagles beat the Chiefs in the regular season and a rematch. just a fact, just a statistic, something that I find fun, and always it makes it a little bit. I'm not saying it makes it much spicier. I don't think particularly the Eagles or the Chiefs are running in going, well, do you remember that game? Well, that was a rematch of the Super Bowl, and we were only the third team. Um, I do think it makes it a little bit fun though. A little bit added
Long.
extra.
And maybe if Jalen Carter can keep the spit in his mouth before
That's
the
true.
game this time, he might actually stand a chance of actually getting on the field.
That is
Hmm.
true. I get the feeling that Mahomes won't do the same kind of like taunting that Dak did before the game
No,
either, though.
Hmm.
Um,
Dak,
but
Dak was able to act like the big man when he had his big linebackers in front of him, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was like, "Hold me back, guys, hold me back."
by the way, right, this is more college related than it is NFL, but I forgot to drop it yesterday. Have you seen that Dylan Raiola's tight end proposed to his girlfriend on the field at the weekend?
Yep,
Yeah.
So
yep.
now Dylan Raiola has a tight end with a high profile engagement. That man will do anything to be like Mahomes. Anything. Um,
Well, they did really well as well, and didn't they? They
Yeah,
won
it
that
wasn't it
game,
62-0 or something
something
like
like
that.
that.
bunch of nobodies, to be fair. Playing playing against whoever Nebraska played against. The another little statistic for the weekend that I found really, really interesting was in Super Bowl history, out of the 59 Super Bowls that we have had, 9 teams have lost a week one game and made it to the Super Bowl. Extra little fun fact about that, all 9 of those teams won the Super Bowl when they made it. That is a 15% chance. 15% of Super Bowl winners in the Super Bowl era have lost their week one game. This means more than anything that, ladies and gentlemen, if your team lost in week one, it's not the end of the world. It is not. Which teams, however, have the most to prove and need the biggest bounce back going into week two if they are to want to make a push for the playoffs and the Super Bowl? Do the Chiefs really need to rebound against the Eagles? If the Chiefs go 0-2, can you say, look, we play 2 very, very, very good teams. We'll be fine. The Ravens, do the Ravens need a bounce back? Do the Lions need a bounce back? Who needs the biggest bounce back after a week one loss?
Dolphins.
I was going to say the Dolphins definitely need to bounce back. Jesus.
Come on, we know that
Woo.
what did we say last week? What did we say last week of the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel? We described him as, you know, when you try to be like the best friend to the players and hanging out and be like, oh, the go-to guy and so on. And then a few years down the line, you then want to become the one that wants to be tough, the one who wants to be aggressive, the one that wants to have a level of accountability, and they don't take you bloody seriously. That game against the Colts last week was a microcosm of the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel itself. They know that they're going into this game right against my team, the Patriots, right? The record is with them, okay? They've beaten us like I think it was Mike McDaniel's record against the Patriots like 7-1. All right, his only loss was when they had Skylar Thompson at quarterback, and that was back in Foxborough. Tua is 8-0 against us. Like he eats us up for breakfast, okay? But this game has become so pivotal for them, saying that if you can't beat the Patriots, what the hell's going on? And I'll say this right now, it's going to get to a point where if they do lose this game, they're 0-2. Their stretch isn't easy. Mike McDaniel could be on his way out. Tyreek Hill is already bitching on the sidelines because it now looks like he wants to get traded. And how much longer are we going to wait before Tua goes down again with another bloody head injury? It's only going to be a matter of time. It's only a matter of
Yep.
time before it happens again. And they are the most softest, the most finesse team in the NFL. And I know it's only been week one, but just looking on the eye test alone, they are soft as Charmin, a Charmin toilet roll.
Charming soft.
Yeah, Charmin soft. So, and they're going up against, and they're going against the Pats front seven. That was top 10 and that was like I think it was like ranked sixth or seventh in blitzing last week. So they're not going to take it exactly lightly either. Um, their line is concerning for me. Their secondary is very concerning because they don't have anybody. Xavier Howard had an interview after the game because he's now the Colts corner, and they basically say, how did the Colts Steve manage to stop Tua? He basically said, take away his first read, and look what happens. And it's going to be either the Dolphins are going to bounce back and they're going to come out venomous, or they're going to really struggle. It's going to be one of those tight knit games, which will be not pleasing on the eye at all. Dolphins need it badly, but there is another team that desperately needs it, and I'll let one of the other two take hold of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one team that stands out for me that I think needs a bounce back win, and that's Seattle. Now, the only reason I say Seattle is because I think this is more because they're already 0-1 in their division. They were up against the Steelers, who got a great win against the Jets. If they lose that game, they're 0-2, and then they've got for their next few games. If I can find it, because I did have it a minute ago. Seattle. Where have you gone? There you are. Their next games after that are the Saints, which they should win, so they will go 2-1. But then Cardinals, another divisional game.
Short turnaround.
Buccaneers,
Sorry, short turnaround as well. That's the first night
yeah,
game against Cardinals.
Mm.
and then Buccaneers, who are, I would say, better than them. So again, there's a potential loss there. And then you've got Jaguars and Texans just before that. It's not an easy. It's not. There's wins there, but there's also potential that they could lose a few of those games, and you could be going into your bye week in week 8, potentially maybe one and 6 or 2-5. If you want to be a playoff team, you're not going to be doing it when you're 2-5 going into your bye week.
No, no, agreed.
So I think that they need to beat the Steelers, in my opinion. I think that's because to me, after that, there's only one game I can see them, maybe two games I can see them winning after that.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, I want to throw it out there, homer pick, but I think the Lions need to have a bounce back win.
You're playing the Bears.
No, I'm just saying the Lions need the bounce back.
Yeah.
Got absolutely demolished got absolutely
The
ran
the
off the
Lions
field on
the
Sunday.
Lions need to prove that they can do it without Ben Johnson. That's the biggest thing at the moment. And if they can beat Ben Johnson doing it, then it'll be that extra bit of buzz
Yeah.
coming out of that win.
Which I'm going to turn around and just say that I think the problem isn't whether that media perception and fan perception of doing it without Ben Johnson doesn't bother me. What bothers me is this team is with apart from that O-line, this team should be it's a playoff ready team. We didn't lose all that much talent in the off season. It's not like we've lost an Amon-Ra St. Brown or a Jameer Gibbs or anything like that. What we have lost though is um Kevin Zietler and Frank Ragnow, and that showed like a motherfucker on Sunday that just how bad the old line was. Oh, you'd think it'd reflect in pocket time, but apparently Jared Goff had the third most pocket time or time to throw at the weekend. But again, like I said, this is a team that they need to
What's
show
the
that week one. They need to show that they've fixed patched up a lot of that O line. They need to show that and again, you can't fall to 0-2 in the division by week 2 if you're this team and where it wants to go.
what's the one thing I've always said about Jared Goff? Give him
I don't.
too much time and he ruins the game for himself.
See,
I
I'm
watched it for years, and he's so slow at his reads. He needs that ability to just be able to not think, and just be like, okay, almost having it scripted, not scripted because it's not. It doesn't need to be. He can still make off the cuff plays, but he needs he needs to have two reads that he can go to each play that he knows he can go to. And if he doesn't have those, I worry for him, because that's where you start getting a bit more time in the pocket, but his reads can be quite slow in that sense. So I think he needs the hurry up.
I think
Yeah.
the point there comes from though is like at the end of the day, if I'm watching. I watched some of the all-22 footage. Nobody is open, right? Green Bay forces into that many passing situations that they put four on the line, dropped seven, nobody's open. Once you start to feel that pressure, let's face like as much as I love the guy, he's not a scrambling quite. I don't trust
No,
Jared Goff once he's scrambling
no, he's
outside
not
that
scrambling.
pocket because he's not. He just doesn't make. That's not who he is. So the amount of times we were in that position where at the end of the day nobody's getting open. That pass to Tesla at the end was just like that's got to have been enough. I know that wasn't his read, and that was just I'm trying something new here. You go.
He's down
Great
there
catch by the
somewhere.
way. Yeah, F it. He's down there somewhere, and Tesla, fair play to him, brought in one of what I think should go down as one of the, or not the catch of the season, but that'll go down as one of the top touchdowns of the season just for the catch alone.
Catch,
But
catch of the week.
yeah, potentially. But
One of. There's
it
one
was
other that I
it was
saw
a
that was definitely
fantastic,
catchable.
fantastic catch. But yeah, I just think the Lions desperately need a bounce back because if you don't, losing becomes a habit, and it's a habit you.
0-2 in that division, you basically may as well admit these season's done.
Yeah. I
I
think
was,
as well, one
I
of the
was,
things that
yeah,
from just speaking to a few people who separate to Lions fans, but speaking to a few like football fans who were coming in so high on the Lions this season, being, like, and you guys know I'm one of those people that I've said
Me too.
Lions Bills for the Super Bowl this season. Um, but one of the things that people have been saying to me, certainly in conversation, is what's happened to the Lions? They should be realistically they're patched back together. They've gained a lot of players that were injured last season back. We've got Hutch back. We've got and what happened? What they looked shocking, and so I think obviously week one symptoms, if you like, have can't be ignored. Week one is always a bit chaotic, and we can't really read any team based solely on a week one performance. But I agree with you. They do need that bounce back, if not for their own fan base, but also just restoring a bit of faith across the board as well.
I, I,
Also, credit's where it's due. The Packers played
yeah.
unbelievably well.
Oh yeah,
Like
Yeah,
as
yeah,
much as we can say that the Lions did not play well, the Packers probably played the best I've seen them play in quite a long while in terms of looking on all fronts, just looking really, really good.
yeah,
Um, and that obviously contributed to it. And like you say, if once you're on the back foot against a team that is constantly putting that sort of level of pressure on you, it is hard to then get anything going.
yeah. Um, yeah. One of the things as well was like, to an extent, I've been like this before. I don't care what general football fans think, right? I just don't care because the same way that like if I was to come at you with an opinion on the fact like, I don't watch the Falcons, I don't know what's going in there. You know that what I'm coming from is probably just a very generalized and the other thing is like the one thing I kind of really want for this team, and I think with the way this loss is going to help this team is going to focus on like they're walking back in on Monday and Dan Campbell's licking his lips and going, I can go in and tell everyone that they doubt us now. They don't think we're going to do it now. Everyone hates us. And that's what gets this team fired up. So I think actually, no, I don't want people to rate. I don't want, I want the bounce back for the team, but I don't
That
want people to be coming back and saying, see, the Lions are back. I want them to go, it's not good enough. So we can keep that going. And
Dan Campbell is the king of underdogs. He
yeah.
loves being an underdog.
That's all he wants to be, and if he'll turn. But yeah, I think for me that's one of the teams that needs it the most. I absolutely agree. The Dolphins definitely need to have some form of comeback, if not for the fact that Mike McDaniel will again. He might get left. We were talking about Doug Peterson getting left in London, like he's going to get left in Spain.
yeah.
Um,
He won't
Mike
make it to
McDaniel.
Spain if he's
He
not
won't make it.
careful.
He won't. Nah, he won't make it to the Bernabeu in November. No chance.
I think they might just so they can leave him in Spain.
Yeah,
Like
save
I
on
mean,
the
there are
extradition fees.
there are worse places. There
I'm
are
going to say,
worse places to
I'm
drop
sure
him off.
McDaniel will not be that arsed by that. He'll
Yeah.
just go and
Oh no,
chill in
no,
Costa del Sol or something like that.
no, just take
Better
yeah,
not.
just take an hour's train journey to Valencia. Yeah.
yeah, just like I hope you like tapas. You'll be eating it for months. Um, and I think where else? Where else are we looking at for bounce backs? I mean, what's
Giants.
the Giants? Yeah, but I'm going to ask. I'm going to
The
ask this one
problem is,
Being
the
first.
realistic
problem
though,
is then,
let's
are
not
they
waste
going
our
to get
breath.
are they going to get a bounce back?
They're
The
against the
pro-
Cowboys,
So
Yeah, but the
so
Cowboys didn't
yeah,
look
Cowboys
but
showed
bad.
up at the Eagles. Let's be honest, for the Eagles.
that's their Super Bowl though.
and Andrew Thomas is out with an injury. That's their blindside blocker gone. So
Mm.
Um,
all pro tackle gone.
my,
So and the fact they couldn't run the ball last week it was against that Washington defense, which by the way doesn't stop the run particularly great. And the fact that the Giants couldn't run the ball on them, that is alarming to say the least. All I'll say is this, okay? There's a lot. I do listen to a I think it's fan radio. They're in New York, I think they are, and the Mets saying they want Jackson Dart in week two, want Jackson Dart week two. I wouldn't want Jackson Dart playing this season, let
No,
alone in week two. Because all you're just gonna do is just throw a rookie in there in a really shit situation. You're gonna make his life shitty. Everything's gonna be shitty, and guess what's gonna happen? He's gonna end up losing all his confidence. I would say Russell Wilson, he's not what he used to be, but all he's got to throw to is Malik Neighbors. That's all he's got. So
I don't
what is
know. Wandale Robinson is a solid second wide receiver for him.
He's a good journeyman. Okay, he's a good
I'm a
journeyman.
big fan of Robinson.
Let me
Big
guess, because he
fan.
was a Ram.
Wandale Robinson was never a Ram. He's
Was
always
he
been a
never a Ram?
giant. No, he's
Oh,
always been a giant. I'm just a big fan of him.
I'm sure he must have been. I'm sure he must have been another
You're
one.
thinking of Demarcus Robinson, but he's at the Niners. But no, Wandale Robinson is. I've always really liked him. I think last season I said that he would. He would. I can't. I made some hot take about Wandale Robinson being a standard flex position wide receiver, which he was, and I think he is going to be again this year because he is just. He's one of those wide receivers that I think has the potential to be a lot better than he is, but will always be stuck at that wide receiver two position at best. Um, and I think that's where he's going to stay. But he's a great he's a solid second option, especially when Malik Neighbors is definitely going to be double or even triple marked out of a game. So
It, well, here's the thing with the Giants. Okay, they got the Cowboys this week, which you know you don't know what kind of team the Cowboys going to come out with. Okay, then you got a week five. Then you're at home to the Saints, right? These are the rest of your games in question. You got to play the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Broncos, the Eagles again, the 49ers, the Bears, the Packers, the Lions. Okay, you play us. Um, Washington, Vikings. You got to play Raiders, maybe. I can only see if this Giants team continues the way it's played. I can only see maybe three wins, four
Maximum.
tops,
Yeah.
four tops.
they'll be top three pick this year.
They'll be a top three
Yeah.
pick.
100%.
They'll be top three pick. They're a
Them and the
mess.
Saints.
They're a complete and utter mess, and it's gonna get.
Is this going to be Dable's last season?
He should have gone at the end of last season.
Yeah, I was going to
It's not.
say.
He's not doing any of the play calling on the offense this year, is he?
Mm-mm.
He gave that back to whoever is the OC, didn't he? So
Yep.
I'll be taking it. I'll be taking it back. If you do, I'll be like, did you see what I do with Josh Allen? Give it here.
I think another, I mean, I don't think we've got that much to prove, to be honest. 'Cause I don't think the expectation's that high, but I see that Raheem Morris came out with some scathing comments after Young Wei Koo's absolute shocker of a game on Sunday night, where talking about kickers and talking about the fact that he's bringing in some competition as early as Tuesday. He said this on Monday or Sunday night. You know, bringing in competition at kicker as early as Tuesday, and then we've signed Parker Romo to our practice squad this week. I believe from the Patriots, and
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
he already. I mean, if anybody saw the absolute sitters that Youngwei Koo missed on Sunday, it is nothing that I haven't been saying since last season. The end of last season, or sorry, the start of last season, he went in, and one of the biggest things was he had this like secret handshake bro code with Raheem Morris. They were both, like bouncing off of each other in pre-season, and I was like, be careful here. It's a bit Mike McDaniel's-esque, where it's like, oh, I'm going to be your mate, I'm going to be your mate. And then you start missing absolute shockers the way that he was last season. You cannot go into the Superdome and miss three kicks inside the dome that weren't even, groundbreaking distances that should have been easy ones. And then obviously, arguably, Sunday night could have been our game had he got those two kicks in that he should have got. So I'll be interested to see in terms of just the direction of travel for Atlanta in terms of kickers is going to be something that we need to keep an eye on because it did ultimately potentially cost us the game and an important game at that on
Well, I mean,
Sunday.
What makes it worse what makes it worse as well was the fact if this was like an outdoor and the weather was a bit blustery, a bit windy, you could probably give it the benefit of the doubt. You was in a
Yeah.
climate controlled stadium. That's what makes it 10 times worse. And
Yep.
guess now you've got to go to Minnesota, who's also in a climate controlled stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And if Yomiku misses another kick, he's gone.
He has to be, and he should have been gone last season. He should have been gone
I
last
think
season.
what's more concerning is the fact that Young Wei Koo missed kicks in week one, and they lost, and you lost. The Niners won, and Jake Moody missed some absolute stinker kicks, and they got rid of him.
Yeah, they got right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like realistically, we have got a lot of very salty Falcons fans sitting here saying we have said since last season when against that Saint that against the Saints, he should be we should have replaced him. We should have been looking at kickers in the off season. Yes, obviously defense was a priority, but we cannot ignore the fact that some big misses have caused us to lose games.
Parker
From him.
Ramos has got a huge leg on him. He has got a huge leg on it. I think he
Is
nailed.
it?
I think he nailed. I think it's like a 65 yarder in pre-season. I think it was.
Oh, no,
Well,
no 70-yarder like Cam Little though, is it?
well, Parker Romo's big leg is welcome here, is what I will say.
So it's a euphemism in there somewhere.
Welcome back, Fletch.
Just talking about Romo's big leg.
We are. We are.
I heard the old conversation. No, as far as week two goes as well, by the way, we'll move off Parker Romo's leg. We don't know which one. Let's talk about what else do we need to the other game one other game that's interesting me at the moment, just because I think we've spoke a lot about them during the off season. We've, some people believe the hype, some people don't, but the Panthers are also a team that I think need to figure some things out very, very quickly because this is they can't afford to start as that slow. They can't afford to pick up in week 10 if they have the aspirations of turning into the team that they want to be and seeing what we want it to out of Bryce Young. Yes, he's lost some. He's lost an Adam Thielen. He's lost a trustworthy target, but we if they're not careful,
He's also picked up a tet as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
no, I know,
Kevin
but
Collins. That's it.
that's where I was getting at. That
Mm.
he's got a tech now, and he need that connection needs to that connection needs to be found.
He looked like the Bryce Young that got dropped, rather than the Bryce Young that came back towards the end of last season and started looking okay. And that's the concern: is that are we seeing is Bryce Young's regular play or his standard gameplay the same Bryce Young that we saw that got dropped? Is that who he is, or can we put it down to week one jitters, and are we going to see something better from him? I think that's the big question, because I don't think the Panthers can stick with Bryce Young for as long as they have if he's going to continue to play the way he is, because you can't give him the weapons, you can't give him, the ability to be able to do what he can, and for him to drop stinkers. You just can't, unless you want to basically stay where the Panthers have been for the last 4 years.
They need to try and run the ball more for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah,
That would help.
really need to get Chuba Hubbard going. Conscious of time, there are a couple of things I want us to run through before we wrap up and then get on to our pick'ems. Who do I go with? I'm gonna call Karl out first.
Call me
Because
out. What the
I
fuck have I
have
done there this time?
there's a term I learned last week that has now become one of my favorite things to say. It means nothing in any context I've used it. It's just fun to say. Can I have some double bombers, please?
You want some double bumpers?
I want some
Well,
double bombers.
little disclaimer from last week. I can describe last week's bets as a little bit ah,
Stinker.
a little
Ambitious.
a little bit fucky, shall we say, because
Mm.
none of your main receivers got any touchdowns. Nothing for Jamar Chase, nothing at all. So we're gonna try and do this again, right? So you got £10. Split it, £5 on each one, right? So we're gonna first start off with the smaller, the sevenfold one. Again, we're gonna do the same as we always do. Touchdown at any time. I've got on my list my 7 for the sevenfold. The running back of Dallas, Javonte Williams. Receiver for Seattle, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Receiver for Denver, Cortland Sutton. Quarterback for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts. Running back for the Jets, Breece Hall. Running back for the Bengals, Chase Brown. And if they all come through and you are relying on one player, you might have to stay up at like 3 in the morning in the early hours of Tuesday morning here in the UK to watch Ashton Genty get his touchdown. £5 on that sevenfold brings you back £939. That's what I've got from Bet365. And then the big bomber, the ninefold. Now, there's two ways you can spin this. If you want to do the Thursday night football, you add Josh Jacobs into this mix. But if you don't, you want to keep it specifically on the weekend, put CD Lamb in to get the touchdown anytime, okay? The rest of the list will consist of CMC, James Conner, Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, Achan, Miami's running back, Nico Collins, Fletch's Detroit's, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Lamar Jackson. That is a big ninefold. That if you decide to do Josh Jacobs and you want to get it done early, it will get you £5, get you back just over 2 grand. But if you take him out and put CD Lamb in, which probably looks like the more realistic option because they're playing the Giants, £2,871 back from a fiver. So those are my tests. And this should be better for receivers in this week because week one was always a little bit helter-skelter, especially in fantasy. So this time they should be getting their mark in this time round. So good luck.
Lovely. Okay, so and finally we want to go to speaking of fantasy, Sam, where I'm just gonna get my fantasy game day app up. I'm looking at some of the games that are available this weekend. Win me some money, Sam. Come on.
In terms of players to look at, I've got a couple of cheaper options. So to give you, I suppose, the idea of why I've gone with this, I think this week is possibly a week where you need to have a couple of big star players. So, someone like a CD Lamb or a Josh Allen, I think you can put enough money on that they're going to score well this week. There were a couple that I thought were interesting in terms of position in terms of their value, just because of the other players that are around them. The first one I've got is Travis Etienne. Now, again, the Bengals aren't particularly good at stopping the run. And the fact that Jacksonville has only one running back, it seems like it's kind of a no-brainer. He's only 3,600 on the app, which makes him, if I remember rightly, he is one of the lower valued starting running backs. So I would go with him. The other one that I've got down, and again, this is more sort of a situational pick in terms of his week one performance, and I think he could potentially need to be a big impact in this game, and that is Harold Fanning Jr. Now, he had a great week one, for a rookie tight end. Obviously, no, he didn't get a touchdown, but he got a lot of receptions. He's actually only valued at £3,000 on this game, which is again one of the cheaper options. They've got him down as being the he's obviously playing against Baltimore, and the OPRK on there is number 31. So it's likely that he's probably going to do relatively well against the Ravens, and I think partially is that because that the defense, the Baltimore Ravens defense is nasty, and I think he's going to need to use his tight ends a lot, Joe Flacco, in this game, because I don't think he's going to have too many options elsewhere. So those are the ones I've got. I mean, again, if you want maybe another tight end, maybe Tyler Warren might be a good option. Again, he seems to be kicking on from when he was in college in the NFL as being almost like that wide receiver one, a bit similar to what we see with Brock Bowers and Travis Kelce a few years ago, and George Kittle. He's only 3,600, so again, he could be a good option. Again, against a very strong defense in Denver, he could benefit from being that time. We saw a couple of plays where he was actually in the screenplay, which I thought was quite interesting as well. So he could get used quite a lot as well. So those are sort of the ones I've got. They're in my team anyway. So yeah, that's the team I've got. My value of my team is out of 40,000 is 39,800.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. And just as a reminder, if you do want to play Fantasy Game Day, we see some of those picks come in. You can do so if you haven't already started playing. Download the app, with the link to which you can find in the description of this episode. And when signing up, use code HRDLE, HRDLE. Hurdle without the U. Do we want to do it again, Sam? No, don't want to do it again. That's fine.
I've done it once. You don't get it twice. You don't get it twice.
You have to pay extra for that.
Not a performing
you have to pay
monkey.
extra for that.
Can't just poke the bear.
I need a £7.50 bet for that.
Can't just poke the bear and make him perform. That's fine. I respect it. I respect the hustle. I ain't paying you, but I respect the hustle for it. But you can use HRDLE. That is hurdle without the U, and you will get free plays worth up to £7.50 by telling them that we sent you, because they're just that nice. I think little needs to be said at this point, other than a very, very big thank you to all three of my co-hosts. We will see you on Saturday, because guess what? I remembered last week to post the pick'ems, find out how we got, we'll remind you how we got on, see how we're picking, and we will see you next week. Obviously, we hope to see you as well on Hurdle the Line for Monday's review show of the week. Forward a little bit to Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football, and we'll see you again next week. Don't forget, we have the College Football UK podcast that drops every Thursday morning UK time, and we have the Fantasy Den, which will drop hopefully on Saturday morning this week, all your fantasy football needs. And we'll see you next week.
See you later.